The widow's shame. The wind keened across the barren homestead, a mournful sound that seemed to echo Evelyn Ward's hollow chest. She stood by the frost-rimmed window of the small attic room, arms wrapped tightly around her children. Below, her in-laws moved through the parlor like ghosts made of iron, their voices sharp even through the wooden floorboards. 6-year-old Clara pressed her face into Evelyn's wool skirt, while 4-year-old Eli clutched a worn wooden toy to his chest. Neither spoke. They knew better. You think you can just stay here forever? Judith Ward's voice rang out suddenly, slicing through the silence like a whip. Evelyn's grip on Clara tightened. She didn't cry anymore. Grief had bled her dry. It had been 5 weeks since the military courier brought news of Samuel's death, killed in a skirmish somewhere near the Cheyenne border. A simple telegram. No body. No ceremony. Judith had not wept. Abel, her husband, had merely nodded and muttered something about the wages of poor choices. Evelyn had expected mourning. Instead, she was met with judgment. You are always bad luck, Judith hissed that morning. You bewitched our son with your silence and sad eyes. Look where that's gotten him. Gone. And you, still breathing. Evelyn didn't reply. What defense could she offer to people who'd always seen her as a burden, never a wife? Later that afternoon, Eliza, a kind neighbor and one of Evelyn's few allies, had visited under the pretense of bringing broth. She lingered too long, waiting until Judith left to fetch firewood. I shouldn't say this, Eliza whispered, glancing around nervously, but I feel you deserve to know. Samuel, he was seeing someone else. A girl in town. Judith knew. Everyone did. I didn't believe it myself until I saw them with my own eyes. The day before he left for the frontier, he told her he wouldn't be coming back to you. Evelyn stood frozen, not because it shocked her, but because it didn't. Samuel had been a stranger long before his death. Cold hands, cold heart, warm smile only for others. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. She lay between her children, wide-eyed, staring at the rafters. Eliza's words sank deep, not as a betrayal but as permission, to stop mourning a man who'd never truly been hers. At dawn, Abel came with a decision already made. You need to leave. You've worn out your place here. You're not family anymore, and we're not feeding you through winter. But the children, she began. They can go with you. Or not. That's your business. He didn't even look at her when he said it. And just like that, she was outside, a threadbare shawl wrapped around her shoulders, carrying a canvas bag with half a loaf of bread, a tinderbox, and a folded quilt. Clara held her hand. Eli trailed behind, shivering. No one watched them go. The road stretched empty before her, snow dusting the dry earth like ash. Evelyn didn't know where she was going. It didn't matter. There was nowhere left. Only away. Hours passed. Her boots cut through crusted snow, each step harder than the last. The wind clawed at their skin. Eli began to cry. Clara staggered. Evelyn lifted her daughter onto one hip, though her arms trembled with fatigue. A thin tree line rose ahead, a wall of skeletal trees swaying under gray skies. She pressed forward, toward the promise of shelter, but the forest brought no warmth, only more silence. She walked until the ground seemed to tilt beneath her, until her knees gave way. She fell, the children tumbling beside her. Evelyn gasped, trying to rise, but her limbs no longer obeyed. Her breath came in ragged bursts. The cold had burrowed deep, past her skin, into her bones. She pulled Clara and Eli close, trying to shield them with her body. Snowflakes landed gently on her face. So this is how it ends, she thought. Not with violence, but with forgetting. As if we were never here. Just before her eyes closed, she saw movement in the trees, a dark shape against the white. A man, tall and still, silent as a shadow. She blinked. The figure moved closer. A blow of fur, feathers, dark braids, and the glint of eyes too steady to be imagined. Then the world tilted again, and Evelyn knew nothing but darkness. Stranger in the snow. Warmth crept back slowly, like dawn spilling across a frostbitten field. Evelyn stirred beneath layers she didn't recognize. Soft pelts, the unmistakable scent of wood smoke and pine hanging in the air. A low fire crackled nearby. Her limbs ached with stiffness, but the numb cold had retreated. She opened her eyes and found herself inside a dim shelter, its walls woven from hide and pine slats, smoke curling lazily toward a central vent in the ceiling. She sat up too quickly. Her vision swam. "Clara? Eli?" A gentle weight tugged at her sleeve. Clara sat curled beside her, eyes heavy but calm. Eli slept nearby, wrapped in a thick fur she hadn't owned before. "You're safe," Clara whispered. "He brought us here." Evelyn turned her head. The man sat on the far side of the fire, cross-legged, sharpening a bone-handled blade. His presence was steady, unhurried. Not menacing, just watchful. Long braids fell across his shoulders, and his face was marked with quiet purpose. Cheyenne. Her heart stammered. Stories told by white settlers surged through her mind, of raids and vengeance, of savage warriors who took what they pleased. And yet, this man had saved them. "Who are you?" she asked, voice hoarse. He didn't answer, didn't even look up. Perhaps he didn't speak English, or perhaps he didn't need to. She tried to stand but faltered, pain lancing through her ankle. She winced. He rose then, smooth as wind across grass, and crossed the lodge. He reached for her foot gently. She tensed, but didn't pull away. With quiet care, he unwrapped the boot, exposing the swollen joint. He examined it without a word, then reached into a pouch beside the fire. His hands moved with practiced ease, smearing a salve, wrapping the injury with softened bark and cloth. When he finished, he met her eyes at last. "No walk. 2 days," he said simply. She blinked. The words were few, accented, but firm. "Thank you," she whispered, almost unsure if it was enough. He dipped his head once, then returned to his place. Evelyn leaned back, absorbing the silence. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, it was still. Later, he offered food, dried meat softened in broth, root vegetables boiled into a fragrant stew. He fed the children first, wordless but gentle, then passed her a wooden bowl. She ate with trembling hands, overwhelmed by the strange kindness of it all. The next day passed like a quiet dream. He rarely spoke, but he brought water, stirred the fire, checked her bandages. Clara followed him with wide eyes, mimicking his gestures. Eli giggled when the warrior carved a tiny animal figure from bone and placed it in his hand. Evelyn watched, heart aching from something she couldn't name. By the 3rd day, she found the strength to limp outside briefly. The forest surrounding the lodge was untouched, blanketed in snow, branches heavy with white. A creek ran nearby, its surface crusted with ice. There was no sign of roads, wagons, or distant towns. No one would find them here. She turned and found him watching her from the doorway. "You live alone?" she asked, uncertain. He nodded once. "Why?" He looked toward the trees, brow furrowing. "Before, someone. No, now. A lost love." She recognized the silence that followed. It mirrored her own. That evening, she sat by the fire while her children slept. He worked nearby, carving another small figure. Evelyn cleared her throat. "My husband died last month," she said quietly, unsure why she was speaking at all. "Wasn't the man I thought he was." He didn't respond, but she continued. "His family cast me out. They blamed me for everything. I suppose I blamed myself, too." Still silence. Then, softly, "You blame wrong person." She looked at him, startled. His eyes held no pity, just truth. He added another log to the fire. The flames grew brighter, casting flickering light between them. She whispered, "Why did you help us?" His answer was simple. "Because I would want someone to help mine." A silence followed, not awkward, but full. Evelyn stayed into the fire. Her life had been shattered. Yet here, in this hidden corner of the world, something unexpected was stirring. Not safety, not yet, but something more dangerous. Hope. Ashes of the past. The days stretched long but gentle in the heart of the forest. Snow melted in slow ribbons beneath the early spring sun, dripping from tree branches like tears. Evelyn had begun to walk again, carefully, leaning on a carved stick Tarsanen had shaped for her. The swelling in her ankle faded. Her strength returned in small victories, fetching water, tending the stew pot, gathering wood with Clara trailing behind her like a shadow. Yet it wasn't the forest she feared. It was the quiet between her and the man who had saved them. Tarsanen rarely spoke, but his presence filled the lodge with an almost sacred calm. He moved with the confidence of someone who belonged wholly to the earth beneath him, neither seeking nor demanding attention. But Evelyn noticed him anyway, in the way he crouched to lift Eli gently from a puddle, the way he shielded the fire from wind with his broad back, the way his eyes searched the trees each morning before stepping outside. Each night, she found herself watching the firelight play across his cheekbones and the line of his jaw. And each morning, shame came with the dawn. Samuel's memory still lingered, faint but clinging, like smoke in her lungs. She'd been raised to believe marriage was binding, even beyond death. Yet here she was, craving not just survival, but comfort, affection. She'd never known tenderness from a man, not truly. And now that she had tasted even the smallest crumb of it, the hunger grew impossible to ignore. One evening, as snow fell like whispers outside the lodge, she caught Tarsanen watching her, not with lust, with something far more dangerous, understanding. She looked away first. Later that night, she dreamt of Samuel, his voice a sneer, accusing. She stood in a house that crumbled around her, shouting his name, but he turned and walked into the fire without looking back. She woke with a start, trembling. Tarsanen was beside her before she could speak. He knelt, concern written across his brow, a blanket in his hands. I'm sorry, she stammered. Dream? He asked. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. He never looked back. Even in the end, he left. Tarsanen didn't offer platitudes. Instead, he sat across from her, waiting. I was faithful, she said softly. Even when he wasn't. Even when her voice broke. I stayed. I believed in something that never believed in me. He reached toward the fire and stirred the coals gently, the orange light catching in his eyes. Loyalty is not love, he said. The words struck her like a stone skipping across the surface of a still lake. She felt her throat tighten. But if I let him go, if I feel something else, doesn't that make me faithless? He looked at her for a long time. You carry guilt like it is honor, but it only makes you smaller. Evelyn blinked, stunned by the truth of it. She had shrunk herself inside her sorrow, clinging to it like penance. She didn't respond. Instead, she sat in silence, watching the fire slowly burn down to glowing coals. The lodge grew darker. The only sounds were Eli's soft breathing and Clara's tiny snores. When she finally rose to return to her bedroll, she hesitated. Why do you live out here alone? She asked, her voice barely audible. Tarsanen turned to her. A settler woman once gave me her promise, he said, then took it back when her people saw us together. Said she never meant it. Evelyn's breath caught. I lost her. I lost trust. He paused, then added, but not honor. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, without thinking, Evelyn crossed the space between them and gently laid her hand over his. His fingers didn't flinch. They closed softly around hers. That small touch said everything she couldn't. When she returned to her place beside her children, her heart beat wildly beneath her ribs, not from fear, but something raw and terrifyingly real. Desire, not just of the body, but of peace, of dignity, of being seen and still chosen. As she lay down, facing the fire, she knew she'd crossed an invisible threshold. She wasn't grieving anymore. She was awakening. And when morning came, she did not look back. The unwritten vow. Spring came early to the mountain woods, and with it, change. The snow receded in glistening sheets, revealing dark soil and fresh shoots beneath. Birds returned to the canopy, their songs filling the silence that had once clung to the lodge like a second skin. Everything stirred with new life, and Evelyn felt it within herself most of all. The children laughed more now. Clara chased Eli around the clearing while Tarsanen taught them how to spot rabbit tracks and strip bark for cod. Evelyn watched from a flat rock warmed by sunlight, her hands busy with sewing but her thoughts elsewhere. She had not spoken of returning to town. The idea with it every time it crossed her mind. What waited for her there? Cold stays, whispered judgments, a life bound in grief and quiet desperation. Hey, she'd been a ghost, then a guest, now something more. The lodge no longer felt like shelter, it felt like home. One morning, as they prepared for a short trek to gather river reeds, Tarsanen approached her with a small object wrapped in tanned hide. He pressed it into her palm without ceremony. Evelyn unfolded the bundle slowly. Inside was a carved pendant, smooth from bone and shaped like a feather nestled within a flame. It hung on a rawhide cord. Simple, beautiful, deeply intentional. "What does it mean?" she asked softly. He held her gaze. "It means you stay, if you wish." Her breath caught. She traced the edges of the feather with her fingertip. "In your world, is this a proposal?" No, his lips twitched, almost a smile. "In mine, this is a vow already made." The words come after. Her heart swelled with something she no longer feared. She wore the pendant around her neck from that day forward. But not all awakenings were gentle. Later that week, while gathering kindling near the forest edge, Evelyn spotted distant smoke, too high and dark for any cooking fire. Her breath stilled. She recognized the pattern. Wagon trail. Settlers. Panic surged through her veins. If they came this way, saw her children playing among feathers and beads, saw her wearing a Cheyenne man's token, what would they say? What would they do? She ran back to the lodge. Tarsanen met her at the entrance, already alert. He had seen the smoke too. "They may pass," he said, "or not. But what if they recognize me?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Then you must choose who you are." The choice, once terrifying, now felt clear. That evening, Evelyn sat by the fire while the children slept. She turned to him. "I used to believe survival was the same as living," she said. "But now I understand, it's not. I survived with Samuel. I breathe with you." Tarsanen reached out and took her hand, warm and calloused. "You do not belong to anyone," he said. "But if you choose me, I will protect that choice." She nodded, tears catching in her lashes. "I choose this," she whispered. "I choose you." They didn't kiss like in the stories. There was no dramatic wind, no swelling music. Just his forehead resting gently against hers, their fingers intertwined. Their silence spoke louder than vows. The next morning, Evelyn helped Clara braid beads into her hair while Eli chased a beetle across the moss. Tarsanen carved a shallow canoe for the children and placed it in the stream near the clearing. The smoke from the settler trail never came closer. But even if it had, Evelyn knew she would not return. She was no longer the woman who had begged for space in her dead husband's bed. No longer the ghost haunting her in-law's parlor. No longer the widow in black, clinging to the ashes of a man who had never loved her well. She was someone new. A mother. A survivor. A woman remade by wilderness and truth. And above all, loved, at last, in quiet dignity. As the fire crackled behind them and the children's laughter echoed through the trees, Evelyn leaned against Tarsanen's shoulder, the carved pendant warm against her skin. No priest had blessed this union. No papers sealed it. But her heart bore the only vow that mattered. She was home.